My name is Clavicular. I'm 20 years old. I believe in Looksmaxxing.
My name is Patrick Bateman. I'm 27 years old.
The idea of maximizing physical attractiveness by any means necessary in order to ascend.
I believe in taking care of myself, in a balanced diet, and a rigorous exercise routine.
If my jaw looks a little weak, I'll bone smash to strengthen it. My ratios are nearly golden now.
In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I'll put on an ice pack while doing my stomach crunches. I can do 1,000 now.
Testosterone for muscle growth. Peptides for anti-aging and collagen production. Melanotan 2 for healthy glow. IGF-1, HGH. Retatrutide for leanness. When it comes to ascension, if you're not looks maxing, you're not life maxing. And if you're not life maxing, you're nothing.
In this video, we will be exploring the concept of pretty privilege, a subject obsessed over most by K2 energy in general, but more specifically the nakshatras of Maga and Mula. K2 is a planet that has a lot to do with class structures, as well as social power more generally, and each of the K2 nakshatras has a particular aspect of privilege and class they are most fixated upon. But beauty as an expression of class power, beauty as a weapon of social power is mostly focused by Mula Nakshatra men.
It's very simple. I got a morning wash, I do my serum, I do my day cream.
However, we will also be speaking of the other K2 nakshatras as they are also highly involved. Online and on YouTube, one finds that truly the planetary energy dominating over male grooming, advice on male aesthetics, men's fitness, men's fashion, and men's skincare is K2 energy.
If you give me 6 minutes, I'll give you perfect skin forever. Each minute in this 6-minute routine will fix one problem: acne, blackheads, dirt and bacteria, texture, uneven skin tone, even oily face.
Magazines like Vogue have a special segment where they focus on celebrities and their own personal skincare regimen, and when we consider only the male celebrities, we find that K2 nakshatras dominate. Skincare is particularly interesting because this is an area that is often neglected by the average man, as it carries many connotations with femininity. Because culturally, it is not seen as masculine to obviously care about one's appearance. But we see time and again K2 nakshatra men being deeply interested in all areas of self-beautification, including the skin.
I started taking care of my skin at a pretty early age. I don't know if it's that early, but it's early for a guy.
Beauty means many things to many people, but we must first and foremost compare and contrast the relationship to beauty between K2 and Venus. Venus, of course, being the planet more traditionally associated with beauty. Venus's true goal is union and pleasure, and for this, beauty is a tool of attraction and a source of enjoyment. For this reason, Venus actually has the ability to find beauty even in that which may fall outside of a given society or given time period standard of beauty. But for K2, beauty is a tool to gain access to privileges, opportunities, and advantages that are generally denied to those that are considered quote-unquote ugly.
What variables cause you to be able to get these, which result in life satisfaction? Well, looks play a part. We know this through observation and through science, right? We have studies on the halo effect. You know, basically you perceive other people's traits as better if they're better looking. You perceive them to be more trustworthy, have a better personality, etc. And then we've also seen studies on what is known as the beauty premium, where better looking people have better success in relationships and better financial success.
Venus is more flexible with beauty standards, representing a more subjective aspect of beauty, since a wide variety of forms can be a source of enjoyment for an individual. K2, on the other hand, requires that there exists a very strict hierarchy of what is considered pretty or ugly, because it is on the basis of this hierarchy that social advantage and power can be gained. This video will attempt to explore the unique obsession that Ketu-ruled individuals have with the concept of beauty, and particularly it will explore how the men influenced by these nakshatras relate to the concept of self-perfection and self-beautification. We find with these nakshatras that at their most extreme, they can treat physical appearance like the only factor that matters in a person.
What's the other surgery you got? Rhinoplasty, nose job. I got it straightened, I got the bridge slightly trimmed, and then I got it deprojected by cutting out some of the columnella and slightly upturned. This Looksmaxxing stuff, what kind of space does it occupy for you mentally? Is it like your life quest to look perfect?
It is interesting that the overfixation with beauty in Mula is such that the male natives are even willing to literally wear makeup, a practice culturally reserved for women, if it means that it will improve their appearance.
Here is what's called a waterline pen, and the idea with this is to create contrast between your sclera and your lower eyelids, okay? And, you know, that's a very subtle thing. You don't go too hard. Like, you wouldn't be able to know that I did it unless I showed you on the live stream.
For most young men, mascara isn't part of their morning routine. But Nocturnal Kent, as he wants to be known, won't leave the house without it.
What does it do for you? Makes me feel more confident. Do you ever get any funny looks? It's not typically how men go about trying to look attractive, but it is unconventional. But if you do what's ordinary, you stay ordinary.
Wasn't there a quote that you said, somebody was talking about your makeup, and you said, I'd rather look like a pretty girl than an old Polish dad? Or something?
I did say that.
Yeah. Are you wearing makeup right now?
Yeah. Mascara, eyeliner, a little bit concealer, a little bit contour. In the aristocratic era, the ancient Egypt, they were all rocking the makeup, and it was a sign of status and wealth. So I'm not gonna hear these Western copes.
Mula Nakshatra contains original archetypes and ideals, as all things made manifest in the material world have their origins in the realm of abstraction, wherein they are perfect, as the true root of progeny of all things in the material world is the abstract world of perfect forms. The natives of this nakshatra instinctively compare what is to what ought to be, contrasting manifestations of the true archetype and attempting always to correct the gross expression that it be perfectly modeled after that archetype. Though all the men of the Ketu nakshatras are interested in beauty, I will focus on Mula as the obsession with beauty tends to reach its peak here, as well as the obsession of beauty is much more philosophically consistent. Mula is ruled by Nritti, which is said to be a form of a Lakshmi. In contemplating and worshipping the forces of a Lakshmi, we realize something. She is the goddess that is never satisfied. She technically is surrounded by abundance, but sees herself as lacking. She possesses luxuries, but sees herself as poor. She is an interesting goddess because how she perceives herself and her conditions is not necessarily the truth of who she is or what she has. In fact, Nritti, despite being depicted as the ugliest among the Mahavidyas, there are sources that describe her as beautiful and golden, which suggests that it is her perception of herself as hideous and ugly that inspires her obsession with personal beauty, the same way that it inspires her obsession with general accumulation of luxuries and wealth. I will now read a quote concerning the goddess Nritti. In Vedic literature, especially in the Atharva Veda, Nritti is portrayed as pernicious, sinful, and causing utmost pain. In spite of her malign nature, she is not presented as an ugly and frightful deity, but as divinity with luminosity. Like other benevolent goddesses, she is called Subhaga, which literally means beautiful or charming to the eye, which contradicts how she is normally depicted. Continuing on with the quotes, a charming appearance is also ascribed to her. She is of golden complexion. For her golden hair, she is often called the golden-haired, golden-maned, or with golden locks. She is gold-cushioned and gold-crowns. Nritti represents ugliness, poverty, and decay. But what is interesting is that the natives of this nakshatra are actually focused on developing strategies to control and to exercise the forces of decay and exercise the forces of ugliness and to escape the forces of poverty.
It's hard to believe tech millionaire Brian Johnson is 46 years old, but no matter his chronological age, he's striving for the biological age of an 18-year-old. His team of 30 doctors utilize all the latest tech. The plan is rigorous.
Mula Nakshatra represents a force that actually understands the nature of poverty, understands the nature of decay, understands the nature of ugliness, and is equipped with the tools to destroy and annihilate these forces. So those who have mastery over our Lakshmi and Nritti, which are the forces that Mula Nakshatra crushes, are thereby positioned to create beauty, because beauty is created through the mastering over the forces of decay and impurity.
Here are 3 ways to become more attractive as a guy, literally backed by science. You can't argue with me. So make sure to drop a like and send this to a friend who needs it.
GTL, baby. Gym, tan, laundry. Because if everything's put together and you feel great, you look great, awesome night.
These kids are robots. Gym, tanning, laundry. Every day since I got here. That's what they do every morning. Gym, tanning, laundry. You know, that's how they like make the Guidos.
You know, I like to look very fresh and mint when I go out, so, you know, everything goes into it. You know, you gotta go to the gym the whole week, you know? You have to have a little color if you didn't go to the beach. And then the last thing that you need to take care of is the outfit, okay? Now, if the outfit is not looking good, then the whole package is off. And
if your nose and your chin look like this, these may not be pimples or blackheads. They could be sebaceous filaments. And here's how you're gonna fix them. With egg whites. Step 1, crack an egg, separate the whites, and whisk them. Step 2, you will lean over hot water. Place a towel over your head to trap the steam. This is gonna open up your pores and soften the junk inside of them. Step 3, dip a brush in the egg whites and apply a thin layer over your blackheads and your nose. Then, layer toilet paper or tissue on top of it and apply a second layer over the paper. Let it dry completely. As the egg whites dry, it'll harden around the dead skin and oil that's inside of your pores. When you peel it off, it's gonna lift all those surface blackheads without damaging your pore lining.
Hiya.
Oh, hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Are you not cold?
No? Have you seen the size of my muscles? Think I can get cold? You take it.
What was that with the receipt?
Well, basically, receipts are covered in estrogenic compounds. If that absorbs through my fingertips, testosterone goes down. Think I'm gonna be able to keep these muscles without testosterone?
So what's your routine now? Like what, because I think people are almost scared. Oh, I hope not too many steps. So what is for men tolerable to do?
No, it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah.
Cleanser, I keep the cleanser in the shower. When I shower in the morning, I wash my face. And toner, then sea drops, hyaluronic acid, sea drops, and some moisturizer and some sunblock, which I wear irrespective of anything. I wear sunblock every day.
Do you, are you paying attention to all this biohacking? Obviously, you're taking peptides, but do you do the ice bath? Do you do red light? Do you do the PMF mat and oxygen?
I've done that. I've done ozone treatments where they take the blood out and oxygenate, put the blood back in, sort of like a transfusion. I've done the ice baths, although they're not for the faint of heart. They are, you have to be very courageous to jump into an ice bath, and then backed up with a sauna, and not with any regularity, but that's something I've done in the past. It's really great for inflammation, which is the source of many of the problems. And some of the peptides I take target inflammation. Some are just general, health for the skin.
Actually, a fear of aging is something else we find with Mula Nakshatra men. Early we spoke of beauty as a tool of social power, but here we see that the clinging to beauty for Ketu Nakshatras is also as a means of running away and destroying the forces of decay.
Yes. Is it really finished? Well, do I look like that?
One would think that you had never seen yourself before, Mr. Gray.
I feel as though I never have.
The gods have been good to you. They've given you youth and beauty, the only things worth having. The world belongs to you for a season.
Interestingly, in my research, I have found that the character Dorian Gray has often been portrayed by Magha Nakshatra natives. Of course, the well-known book is about a young man who has been so convinced that beauty is the only thing that matters that he even makes a wish to never age, to never decay. Again, much like how the forces of Ketu exist also to destroy and to exorcise the decaying and ugly forces of Nritti.
He's been beautiful and 21 for almost half a century. But what was the price of eternal youth?
I would give anything to stay like that.
He's fallen in love with your painting.
Or with his own beauty, I don't think he realized before. I would give my soul to stay like that.
Dorian Gray. To keep alive his mortal youth, he sold his immortal soul.
Mr. Gray, come over and look at yourself.
This picture will always remain young. It will never be older than this particular day in June. If only it could grow old instead of me.
Here he is.
Dorian is quite elusive. Which of us does not have our secrets sometimes?
He has eternal life.
I never say no. Life is completely transitory, so he's obsessed with new experiences and living life on the edge.
Cristiano Ronaldo is of course one of the most famous soccer players in the world. And it's interesting that his vanity has always been a subject of some commentary. The soccer player is of course a Mula native, and there are various articles that go on and on about his vanity. Consider comments by some of his colleagues and managers like Diego Forlan, who has been quoted as saying, "Ronaldo was an egotist in the dressing room. Ronaldo always wanted to be near a mirror." We also have comments by Sir Alex Ferguson, also commenting on Ronaldo's obsession over his own appearance, saying, "Cristiano Ronaldo used to stand in front of the mirror loving himself." And even Wayne Rooney, a former teammate, in an extract from his book, shares that there was literally a mirror besides Cristiano at all times. I quote, "There was a mirror by Ronaldo's seat in the Old Trafford dressing room." He goes on to say, "In the time I've been playing with Ronnie, the one thing I've noticed about him is that he can't walk past his reflection without admiring it, even if we're about to play a game of football." Mula Nakshatra is always comparing things to their pure archetype, as all things in the manifest world have their origins in a pure abstract archetype, which is the root of progeny. And everything made manifest compared to this original archetype necessarily falls short, which provokes insecurity and a need to perfect oneself. Of course, in the context of men, the men of Mula compared themselves to the archetype of the ideal man, or to use a common term in the Looksmaxxing community, the Chad. The Chad is the abstract archetype of the ideal man. But in comparison to this perfect yet non-realistic ideal, one will always fall short, which is why Mula Nakshatra necessarily inflicts with insecurity through this need to purify oneself.
I never really was satisfied with my body. I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I don't know how this shit body can ever win this competition. When I brag about myself, that's all bullshit.
Right. Very dramatic.
Right? This is kind of like the other me, the me that they want the world to see.
How do you like that shot?
But in reality, when I'm by myself, I look at it and I say to myself, it's not there yet. It's not happening.
Check the chest.
I think it's the very thing that made me always be on the edge and always want more.
The chest looks tremendous.
Nariti is a perfection that, through its perfection, it highlights how imperfect everything else is, and it pressures everything else to either improve or simply self-destruct and delete themselves. Mula is not beauty as a source of pleasure and enjoyment that we find in the truly Venusian nakshatras like Rohini or Purva Palguni, because Mula is too focused on the imperfections within things, too focused on the ugliness within experience, to even fully allow itself to enjoy reality.
Okay, so if you're gonna observe Graham first, what can he do to look as best as possible?
Glory. It looks like your hairline's receding a little bit. Yeah, so I would start with like a hair loss protocol, like a double jaw surgery. You would certainly qualify for. The two jaws are a little bit recessed, so I'd start there.
Whereas Rohini and Purva Palguni represent beauty for play, beauty for joy, beauty as a source of excitement, beauty as a source of wonder, Mula represents beauty as a tool of destruction. Again, exposing the inferiority and ugliness behind things. Mula is beauty as a measuring stick of worthiness. The controversial YouTuber Clavicular has various interesting interviews where he essentially admits that, owing to his obsession with physical beauty and the various drugs and other such treatments he has done on himself, he has been rendered, at least temporarily, infertile.
People are asking, are you going to be infertile? Do you worry about having children?
So right now, I am infertile, but I'm not able to have a kid right now. But if I wanted to, there's a protocol I can put in place to be immediately going to get.
Wait, why are you infertile right now?
So it's just like a negative feedback loop when you're not needing to produce testosterone anymore because your body realizes, okay, we're getting it from an exogenous
So you're not producing
source.
any testosterone naturally?
No.
None?
No.
I'm not taking TRT, bro.
And this exposes something about the Mula and MAGA fixation with beauty. The relationship to beauty here is not truly and fundamentally as a means of attracting a partner. It is instead beauty as a measure of spiritual superiority, and again, beauty as a tool of class and power. What we have observed in our various explorations on Ketu Nakshatras is an understanding of power and how to amass power, an understanding of the superficiality of the everyday person and the sort of things they are impressed by. In Ashwini, we sought power through personally becoming impressive individuals that are impressive to the average person, a superiority that inspires submission. In Maga, we sought power through aligning ourselves with powerful lineages that are impressive to the average person, a superiority that inspires submission. In Mula, we are seeing beauty as another means of amassing power and again communicating a sort of superiority, because the average person is of course impressed by physically beautiful people and feel this odd compulsion to gratify them and value them, their presence, their opinion, and make excuses for their behavior. Ketu Nakshatras tend to amass power more easily and more quickly than most people because they don't lie to themselves about what it is that humanity and society truly values. Whereas many other types of people like to pretend that beauty and wealth are not very important, these same people allow themselves to be influenced by those very same qualities. The honesty with which Ketu Nakshatra approaches society allows them to cut through the falsities that keep people weak and to go after the sort of things that human societies actually value, and in so doing, others submit to them in recognition of their power.
Because I like to look at the black pill and lookism in a very societal, sociological context.
What's lookism?
Lookism is just treating people differently based on their looks.
So it's sort of like the halo
racism. It's like racism, but for looks.
You're an awful person. Maybe, but I'm rich and I'm pretty, so it doesn't really matter.
And on this subject, we can consider another interesting social phenomenon, the male gaze versus the female gaze. It is interesting to read about the endless studies that demonstrate again and again that which men find attractive about men is not necessarily what women find attractive about men. And that which men find attractive about women is not necessarily what women find attractive about themselves. Men, for example, tend to highly value muscularity, big and buff bodies, but women, according to various studies, tend to find these bodies more frightening and find slimmer yet athletic bodies as more appealing. Women in the Western world, on the other hand, tend to aspire to be skinnier, but men tend to report a desire for more curvaceous female bodies. Men tend to view muscular bodies as not only aesthetically superior, but also representative of an ideal, the Chad, that goes even beyond the purpose of sex, as many bodybuilders tend to say that they don't work out for women, but instead sculpt their bodies to perfection for their own pleasure. Women in both Western societies and the Far East as well tend to perceive slimmer bodies as somewhat superior and are often indifferent whether or not such bodies are as sexually appealing to men as more curvaceous ones. Because again, these slimmer bodies represent a female ideal, a perfection that goes beyond mechanical sex. This is such a fascinating phenomenon in society, as we observe that there is a difference between the sort of beauty that is actually gratifying to the opposite sex versus the type of beauty that earns one respect within one's sex. The difference between a beauty that is sexually attractive versus a beauty that is socially held superior. This contrast between the male gaze and the female gaze once again brings the conversation back to the differences in how Venus aspires towards beauty and how Ketu aspires towards beauty. Since Venus's desire is to attract romantic partners to oneself, it is going to be very much in tune to what the opposite sex finds gratifying. But since K2 sees beauty as a means to amass and signal power, it will focus on the ideals of one's sex, even where it deviates from what is actually desired by the opposite sex. Now, the halo effect has an interesting history that is also related to K2 energy, and here we shall briefly explore it, starting with Edward L. Thorndike, likely an Ashwini moon native. He first formally described the halo effect in psychology in 1920, noticing that positive impressions in one area, for example appearance, often spill over into unrelated traits, for example intelligence. His paper, A Constant Error in Psychological Ratings, named and documented the bias that underlies what we now connect with beauty-based assumptions. Next we have Ellen Burscheid, who is likely a Maga Moon native, and Elaine Walster, who also has Moon conjunct K2, who produced the work What is Beautiful is Good in 1972. This classic social psychology research directly tested the idea that physically attractive people are assumed to have more socially desirable qualities. Their work is considered the seminal empirical work on the attractiveness stereotype and the notion that beauty leads to assumptions about goodness, competence, happiness, and other virtues. Now, disgust is an important aspect of this nakshatra because those with a profound appreciation for purity, for cleanliness, for perfection, and for beauty also tend to experience disgust to an extreme degree. Not only do we find these natives have an intense degree of disgust for their own selves and for others in terms of physical beauty, but it even expresses itself in other ways like ableism, ageism, anti-Semitism, racism, fatphobia, homophobia, transphobia, and all other isms and phobias, as these are all fundamentally related to disgust.
That obese specimen of human filth scrubbing bulimia vomit out of the carpet is Miss Bean. I call her White Mammy because she's essentially a house slave.
I mean, where's our mode girl on Madison feature?
Who cares what the average woman wears on the street? We shouldn't be taking their pictures, we should be throwing rocks at them.
You like all races?
Yeah, I see you invited Clive and a couple black girls over. You like black girls?
No, not at all. Like, not even a little bit.
You're a fucking ugly bitch. I want to stab you to death, then play around with your blood.
Would you mind telling me why partnership's not in my future?
Not at all. You're fat.
So I'm being fired because I'm fat?
Yes. Off you go now.
If Dean Munch gets her way, Kappa's gonna be filled with fatties and ethnics. The fatties will bring their big ol' appetites, and you know what those ethnics will bring with them? Weird spices from their home countries. That is a nuclear combination, Miss Bean. The weird ethnic spices will send the fatties racing to the bathroom to blow liquid fire out of their huge, swollen bowels.
You really think you're that much better than me?
Oh, I think we both know the answer to that.
So tell me, once and for all, what makes you better than me?
Generations of breeding and wealth had to come together to produce me. I have more in common with Marie Antoinette than with you.
Comically, many Mula natives, as well as other K2 nakshatras, are often depicted as visibly, aggressively wincing in disgust. The lips that turn up on the corners, the nose that wrinkles as though there were a foul stench in the air.
If you just admit your parents are cousins, people will stop making fun of your learning disability. You're welcome. Be muy excelente at gardening or bussing tables, and maybe you'll get to stay in this country. De nada.
You're Harry Potter. I'm Hermione Granger. And you are?
Ron Weasley.
Pleasure. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Of the birds associated with Nriti, again we have the dove, which is a bird of purity, and yet by its connection to Nriti, it is said to be ominous. And one interpretation is the following. Necessarily because this bird is so pure, so clean, so white, everything placed next to it by comparison is dirty and unclean, and even the tiniest flaw is exposed. So Mula and Nriti represent such purity that anything close to it is automatically seen as disgusting or wretched, which is why the presence of this golden-haired goddess is oddly inauspicious.
He was also posting TikToks during this time period with captions like, 99% of people are utterly repulsive to even look at. They should be grateful when I'm in their presence.
I have all the characteristics of a human being.
flesh, blood, skin, hair. But not a single clear, identifiable emotion, except for greed and disgust.
So first we have the dove that, through its purity, exposes even the tiniest impurity in all that is placed adjacent to it. Then we have the crow, which in this context is an animal that plucks out impurity through its beak. For it is even said, and I quote, "The crow that when it strikes one with its mouth, then it strikes not merely with its mouth, but with the mouth of Nritti," which is the mouth of destruction. An unfortunate theme we find with many of the women of Ketu Nakshatras is an intense hatred of their own appearance, which is expressed in many different ways, but in this part of the video we will focus specifically on eating disorders and an obsession with being skinny.
When did you get over the eating disorders?
There was a point in my mid-40s when I realized that that if I continued to be controlled by these addictions, that I was going to, I don't know if I was going to die, but my life would fall apart.
When you have an eating disorder, you become very good at lying.
People felt it was okay to criticize a woman for her weight.
I've been everything from porky posh to skinny posh.
Especially girls who were saying, finally somebody understands me. And for people who don't know your story, eating disorder that you saw treatment for, bipolar, cutting, all those things. And it is something that, how has it helped you coming forward and being so open about speaking about it?
But then also, I have so many fans that come up to me at concerts that say, you know, thanks to you and because of you telling your story, I've been able to get help for my eating disorder. I've been able to tell my parents about my cutting and
starred in Feed, a project that hit close to home.
You look sick. Did you eat?
Don't. I need that.
Been very candid about the struggles that you've gone through. Was it an easy decision to put yourself in that role, or did you have some hesitancy? Definitely. Definitely had some hesitancy. A lot of people who love me had a lot of hesitancy. Yeah.
Arguing about the possibility that your condition may have returned?
No. But it hasn't.
I heard you. The other day, in your bathroom, with the water running.
I am so grateful that you guys are sharing your not food lunch with me, but won't we, die if we eat cotton balls?
Only if they cause a blockage in our intestinal tracts, but that's what the sauce is for.
Lubrication, and it gives you that wonderfully full feeling without all the calories.
I am beautiful, no matter what.
Hi, Brookie, I know what you're doing. Stop staring at yourself in the mirror like you're the 600-pound angry mom from the Springer show.
I'm not.
Now, the women of Ketu Nakshatras are often prone to eating disorders, which in a way is disgust directed towards the self. We observe both fictional and non-fictional examples of Ketu-ruled women obsessively self-inspecting themselves, picking themselves apart, not eating or vomiting out their food. This again brings us back to Nritti, an expression of a Lakshmi, a force that is never satisfied and always perceiving lack, perceiving poverty, and even perceiving ugliness where none may exist. And as a result of this perception, this force, this goddess, begins to obsess over accumulating more and more money, youth, beauty, and perfection. Here we are discovering a fundamental quality in Ketu-ruled Nakshatras, and it's that there is often a fundamental dissatisfaction in both their appearance and their level of material wealth. Ketu-ruled Nakshatras, especially Mula, actually tend to perceive itself as rather ugly, disheveled, unattractive, and unappealing. It just so happens that some of these natives take a more quote-unquote positive attitude to the idea of their own ugliness by being obsessed with grooming. But there are other natives of this nakshatra who perceive themselves as so ugly that they literally give up on grooming altogether, believing that there is no hope and they are a lost cause.
Is it me? Is it because I'm fat?
No, Brooke, you're so beautiful.
Even the experience of looking in the mirror for Mula natives can be very painful, because whether they conform to standards of beauty or don't conform to standards of beauty, they tend to consistently perceive themselves as ugly. And for some, this exacerbates their obsession over their own appearance. It is interesting because these K2 Nakshatra natives, as they observe themselves in the mirror, it is almost as if they are perceiving Nritti or perceiving themselves as Nritti, and this experience creates the same pain that is inherent in the goddess, which then provokes within them either an obsession with self-perfection or inspires them to fully give up on their appearance altogether. Up until now, we have explored Nritti and her other forms as Dhumavati and how it relates to K2 and its tendency to always see itself as lacking, whether in terms of material wealth and power or even in terms of physical appearance. The mantra of Dhumavati is actually one of the mantras of planet Rahu, and this goddess is said to be the refinement of planet K2, as it uses the mantra of Rahu to perfect K2. But now I would like to reference, in a sense, the inverse goddess, a goddess that specifically makes use of K2's mantra to perfect Rahu. That goddess is Chinnamasta, and her mantra is the powerful Hum mantra, which again is K2's mantra. It is generally said that one of the powers that Chinnamasta blesses her devotees with is the power to control women.
Are you married, Mr. Kimball?
No, I'm not.
He's not married, Mom!
Why is he suturing his own face?
To turn me on?
Make Sexy wants an x-ray to check for fractures. And
Sexy?
No?
Make Yummy? No.
Make Steamy.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I love how his eyes sparkle when he smiles. I want to sit on his face.
Listen, I've got to go.
Go? Go where? Go?
Go home, Molly.
No, no! I don't understand.
Listen, I just feel like I'm suffocating. I need some air.
We can open the windows.
You know, it's not about the windows. I need my shirt back. I mean, there's a week's worth of leftovers, a month of laundry. I mean, come on, look at this place.
The experience of pursuing women for the average man is a frustrating one, as women are the ever-elusive ones who force men to develop all sorts of schemes to essentially entrap them. From sweetness to aggression, some men are put so much at their wits' end that they even resort to more vulgar, more daring, more dangerous, and even criminal methods of entrapping and attracting women. It is interesting that the experience of sexual dynamics for many of these K2 natives, particularly Mula natives we are studying, is the opposite. Instead of the men becoming viral and developing all sorts of crazy plots to attract a woman, it is the women in the vicinity of the K2 Nakshatra male who herself becomes the viral, herself becomes the erect and pursuing polarity, chasing after the more passive Mula or Maga or even a Shwini native.
All right, get out of my car. Get out of my car right now.
I almost went insane today. Having to pretend like I was concentrating on work when all I could think about was...
Lisa! Get out of my car now!
What's wrong?
Please don't go. I didn't mean it. Please, I'm sorry. I'll tell your wife.
You tell my wife, I'll kill you.
Wait a minute, Paul. Where are you going?
Work. I have to go to work. I don't do this for a living, you know?
Can't you call them and tell them you can't come in today?
Corey, I can't kiss you anymore. My lips are numb. Now, will you please go inside?
If you don't give me a real kiss, I'm gonna give you back your pajamas. Right now.
And then... What?
Because of their fixation over physical appearance, it is only natural that K2 Nakshatra men end up much more physically attractive than the average man. Culturally speaking, men are generally seen as being less physically appealing than the average woman, as most men do not invest in their grooming to the same degree that women do. And so to find that rare man that dedicates himself to looking good can be a uniquely exciting experience for a woman that does indeed bring out a more masculine side to her.
Hey, Dad.
There's no signed contract. What's happening here? What is this? What are you doing?
I'm trying to get you all hot and bothered, and you're summing up for the jury.
K2 is an introverted planet that withdraws into itself, and then becoming a void pulls other things into it. Because of this intense passivity, the experience can be confusing but initially exciting for a lot of women who get to experience a polarity that is generally foreign to them, as again, they become the chasers and the pursuers. Studying these dynamics, one develops a more practical understanding of the effects of the force of Chinnamasta and the force of the Hum mantra, and the sort of results that a man can expect if he were to take on this mantra. Though the goddess is not connected to the Nakshatra of Mula directly, she arrives at her state by the use of one of Ketu's mantra, which again is Hum. And of course, Mula is a Ketu-ruled Nakshatra. Because this mantra is introverting in nature, and because it cycles energy into itself, one can expect a man to become more vain, more focused on his own appearance, less interested in ejaculatory activity that depletes his bones of marrow and his body of fat and his skin of luster. This mantra would then eliminate impurity and make a man beautiful to such an extent that women would surround him and beg to drink from his overflowing pond of unspilled milk, much like it is said that the attendees of Chinnamasta herself also beg her for sustenance, sensing her abundance. Indeed, Ketu withdraws its energies within itself and also consumes so much energy that it swells with abundance, that then call all those in its vicinity to come and quench their thirst in their pond of milky beauty. It is even interesting that in Claire Nocti's study of beauty, she found that indeed Venus was most commonly placed in the first house, but planet Ketu was the second most common planet placed in the first house. When studying the iconography of goddess Chinnamasta, we see her stepping upon the copulating bodies of Vedic Cupid, Kamadeva, and his consort Rati, which many interpret as her having control over all ejaculatory forms of sexual expression. Because of this, she begins to internally swell with a refined substance. Essentially, she overflows with the alchemized version of sexual fluids, so much so that everything around her chases her to quench their thirst on the fountain of her alchemized semen. As mystically, even women are said to possess semen. One way of simplifying polarity and sexual dynamics is as follows. There are the givers and the takers. There are those that are overflowing with cool milk, and those whose tongues are red hot with thirst, begging to be quenched. The nature of the average man is to be thirsty and wishing to quench themselves in the fountain of femininity. But the Hum mantra, by inverting a man's polarity somewhat and causing him to not ejaculate but instead internalize his projections, turns a man himself into a fountain of milk or a source of alchemized semen, which then allows women to explore the experience of quenching their thirsts in the fountain of their masculinity. In Ayurveda, it is essentially thought that externally the nature of men is hot and thirsty, whereas inwardly it is refreshing and milky, as men possess semen internally. Alternatively, women's external nature is cooling and milky, whereas internally it is hot and thirsty, just like the hot mouth of the female genital organ. Again, the Hum mantra seemingly flips this for men, teaching them to not ejaculate and project outwardly, but instead to refresh themselves with the libations of their own milky nature, which of course results in a very creamy physical beauty, as all beauty is essentially dollops and dollops of cream that call those who wish to consume it. We must now discuss the mysteries of the eye and how beauty affects the eye. The protruding of the eye is synonymous with the erecting of the phallus. Anything that one considers extremely beautiful has an erecting and virilizing effect on one, causing the sort of arousal reminiscent of male erection. And so even when women find a man extremely visually appealing, even they experience what some refer to as lady boners, because these very physically attractive men quite literally have a masculinizing effect on women, which then inspire women to become aggressive, assertive, and even physically competitive with one another, wrestling against one another in the same way that men wrestle against other men to conquer women.
I cannot believe you fooled around with my boyfriend. Listen here, Treasure Trail. We're about to have a smackdown.
I don't want to have a confrontation.
Don't play stupid with me, Stubbles.
Ty,
Time for some girl talk, man hands. You can dance with him, you can sing with him, but you will never have him.
Eddie was unfaithful to Brandy on the set of Northern Lights on Lifetime. Brandy and Eddie and Leanne Rimes and Eddie Cibrian's co-starred in that movie, and they fell in love on the set. And I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But right in front of all of our eyes. Jason, should you come over?
Yo, Jason, which one of us is hotter?
You're a sunset, you're a rainbow. How can I choose between them?
Don't push me! Don't push me!
When I first got into watching, really watching The Bachelor something like 5 years ago, one of the first things I did was Google best seasons of The Bachelor, what season should I watch, top 10 seasons, and back then, every single time, this guy's name came up. Brad Womack. And I thought, why? Why is this guy possibly the most famous bachelor ever picked?
The sexiest bachelor ever. The sexiest bachelor ever. This good-looking guy. How are you here?
Yo, Chris Harrison, you crushing, bro?
He couldn't be in love with you.
Then he's been giving an awfully good imitation.
Just a bit of advice. If you're dressing for Stephen, not that one. He doesn't like anything quite so obvious.
Thank you. But when Stephen doesn't like what I wear, I take it off.
Naturally, women and men have their own very different ways of competing within their same sex for the attention and the love of the opposite sex. But when a woman is erect or virilized, she competes in a style that is masculine because she finds herself in the presence of something delicate and beautiful. So now she takes on a more masculine role. In an older video on Rohini, I explored that the effects of this nakshatra is such that it inspires multiple suitors to fight for the love and attention of one Rohini native. Years after that video, I discovered that there are two other nakshatras that produce a love triangle sort of dynamic where multiple partners vie for the affections of a singular individual. So ranking as number one nakshatra for love triangles is Rohini. But second to that is Pusha for women and Mula Nakshatra for men. And Pusha Nakshatra is another nakshatra that is related to an obsession over one's appearance. Homosexuality as it relates to Mula Nakshatra and Ketu is an interesting matter to consider. For this energy can either make a male homosexual, or it can cause a male to so invest in their own physical form and graduate to a position of such physical male beauty that it calls or attracts homosexual men towards one.
You forget yourself.
Actually, even if heterosexual men are simply in the presence of Mula natives, this energy can even coax out some degree of homosexual or bisexual energy from these men, as some heterosexual men may feel more comfortable experimenting with Mula natives, for example. Either way, the force of Ketu and the nakshatra of Mula relate a lot to homosexuality in general.
You like him. Yeah, that's what this is, and you were just trying to eliminate the competition.
I was just helping him understand that you are not a viable second choice.
You think I'm living in a fairy tale? If I were second or if I were 50th, I'd still be ahead of you because I'm a girl.
To have Ketu well disposed and prominent in one's chart suggests that one is successful in extracting and absorbing from the wealth of biological resources inherent in one's ethnicity, pulling the strongest, thickest, and glossiest hair, the thickest jaw, the brightest eyes, the largest muscles, the strongest, most dimorphic features overall. To have a badly placed Ketu would suggest the opposite. It would suggest someone who is not good at pulling from the richness of his genetic background, and for this reason they have a weak constitution overall, which can result in one who can easily fall sick from disease and may indeed be socially considered quote-unquote ugly. Mula Nakshatra relates very strongly to the aspects of Lord Shiva that is unmoving, still, and passive, because Lord Shiva in this passive state forces the feminine principle to become erect and virilized, and forces the feminine to be the one pursuing him, chasing him, and begging him for love and attention.
Adam is mine! He's mine!
Lord Shiva, much like Mula Nakshatra men, is simultaneously the epitome of masculinity, but is also passive. He is paired with goddess Parvati, who is again feminine, but also active, the one who is the pursuer or the chaser in their dynamic. Shiva is the self-sustaining deity that recedes from the terrestrial plane, and he requires the hot, fiery pursuits of goddess Parvati to wake him up. In the tales of these two deities, it is Parvati that is constantly pining, constantly calling, constantly chasing, constantly trying to seduce Lord Shiva out of his indifference for her or the world. In fact, the very birth of Parvati was for the purpose of pulling Lord Shiva into the feminine aspect of reality. What is interesting about goddess Parvati is that, in her iconography, she holds a phallic sugarcane stalk. And of course, sugarcanes are connected to the god Kamadeva, who intelligently weaponizes phallic forces to awaken the passive principle of reality, chasing them and wishing to penetrate them as a means of waking them up to love and passion. The sugarcane can be seen as a phallic symbol, but in the pleasurable sense. This relates to the way women themselves are penetrative towards men. Attraction is said to occur first in the eye, and it is typically female beauty that penetrates the eye of men. And from this initial penetration, men themselves become erect and pursue women to complete the penetration. In this way, we understand that the feminine principle is guilty of that initial, albeit indirect and invisible penetration. Goddess Parvati, according to the Shaktas, is also considered the reincarnation of the goddess of pursuit and passion herself, Lalita or Tripura Sundari. And this goddess is again connected to Kamadeva, since they share a mantra which again reinforces Parvati as the goddess who must first penetrate Lord Shiva internally so that he may in turn penetrate her externally. And so this goes in line with the whole lady boner label I have chosen to attach to these women who pursue Ketu-ruled men and the effect that these men have on them. Another very interesting area one finds Mula men and the men of other Ketu Nakshatras is in low-budget Christmas movies. In trying to understand the reasons why, I settled upon one possible conclusion, which is again the obvious attractiveness of these Ketu Nakshatra men. These low-budget Christmas romance movies oftentimes have storylines that are quite bland and shallow, have characters that are not very well developed nor very interesting, and cast actors that are oftentimes very limited in range. And really, they invest more on the physical attractiveness of the male lead, as these films often have a larger female demographic. So, you are really trying to cast for the sort of male that immediately, physically appeals to the mostly female audience of these low-budget romance movies. The sort of men many women fantasize about. The sort of men that again give women a quote-unquote boner and essentially virilizes them and inspires them to be the ones chasing the men. We have the movie Hot Frosty starring the Mula native Dustin Milligan.
You're stuck in there pretty bad. You want me to get behind you and push? Huh?
And another movie, Love at Christmas Table. We have Chris Carmack, a Mula native in the Christmas movie A Christmas Wedding Date, and also another movie called Time for Her to Come Home for Christmas. We have Casper Van Dien, a Mula Sun native in Baby's First Christmas. We have Luke Bracey, a Mula Moon native in the film Holly Dates.
Isn't it great? Here's my holiday.
What?
A date solely for the holiday. No commitment.
That's what I need for New Year's Eve. We can be each other's holiday.
Come on, friends with benefits never works.
So let's make it official. Non-sexual holidays from now on.
We have the actor Mark Declan, another Mula native, and his various Christmas titles. We have Dennis Morgan, a Mula son in A Christmas in Connecticut.
Market of all. I will know it when I see him. We'll lock eyes and everything else will melt away.
Joyeux Noël on Hallmark.
We have the very handsome Maga Sun native Brant Daughtery and his various movies including Timeless Love, where he is literally the dream husband of a woman.
I think it's time for a change of tactic.
He's a very effective motivator.
Trivia at St. Nick's.
What have you got to lose? Get a few followers, make a few sales. Do it as a joke. Yeah, but where am I gonna get a husband and a baby?
It's so cute.
#Xmas. Only on Hallmark.
We have Josh Swickard, likely Magamu native, and his various Christmas titles like A California Christmas, Holiday in the Vineyard, and A Holiday Christmas.
Just a few more measurements. His eyes are up there.
Shout out to the merry gentleman.
My number. I'll get that.
We have Chad Michael Murray, Magasun native, in The Merry Gentleman. We have Nike Sagar, likely Magamoon, in The Princess Switch, which is a Christmas movie. We have Cameron Matheson, Magasun native, in the movie Home Sweet Christmas and The Christmas Ornament, and various other titles. We have Robert Mailhouse, likely Magamoon, in All I Want for Christmas. In reflecting upon Mula and Ketu and their relationship to beauty, one begins to consider the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, and its connection to beauty. Some authors say it is Mars that controls the Muladhara chakra, others say it is Saturn, and even others say Ketu. But it would be best to explore and consider why each one of these planets would be related to this chakra. A chakra connected to the terrors of the material plane and the overcoming of those terrors. Mars is the willpower, the strength, and the intelligence necessary to overcome the material plane, to hunt, to conquer, and to acquire. Saturn represents all of the obstacles to be conquered within the material plane, the enemies, the poverty, and all the other misfortunes of everyday life. Ketu would then represent the success in this chakra. As a planet of accumulated merit, it represents one whose ancestors have conquered and subdued this chakra, and one who inherits the triumph of one's fathers and all the skills related to that triumph. One way in which beauty would be considered one of the victories of the Muladhara chakra is that to be physically beautiful is often related to being materially stable. One who has conquered over the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, is one who is materially secure enough to have access to a good and balanced diet. Success in this chakra also suggests one who is physically and mentally fit and sturdy. Success in this chakra even suggests having access to many luxuries that one can then add to one's appearance, like skincare and hair care, well-made clothes, jewelry, perfume, and other such items. Success in this chakra suggests one who is in some sense genetically superior to those who are still oppressed by the forces of this chakra. And so it is in this sense that beauty may be seen as one of the marks of success of those who are materially stable. Beauty as a mark of success is defined in this chakra. We can again compare and contrast the Muladhara or root chakra to the Svadhisthana or sacral chakra, because this brings us back to the dichotomy of Ketu and Venus and their separate focus on beauty. The root chakra is again beauty as representative of material success and power. But the sacral chakra or the Svadhisthana chakra is beauty for the purpose of attraction and seduction and enjoyment. As we are ending this video, let us return to our contemplations on Nritti, whose other forms according to various scholars include Alakshmi and Dhumavati. And to close the video, we will specifically speak of Dhumavati, the goddess that is never satisfied, the goddess surrounded by gold and luxury but who perceives herself as poor and lacking, the goddess that according to some sources is even considered to be beautiful but who perceives herself as hideous, the goddess who carries a gold winnowing basket to represent her nature of one that is constantly refining, constantly perfecting, as her high standards get even higher the closer she gets to attaining them. Planet Saturn and planet Ketu are the two planets whose energies are most associated with different expressions of Alakshmi, Ketu being the perfection of Dhumavati and Saturn more generally relating to Alakshmi. And so both of these planets partake in the nature of constant striving but never being satisfied. And both of these planets are again, in my research, related to an obsession with self-beautification. Ketu more so in the charts of men, and Saturn more so in the charts of women. Mula more so in the charts of men, and Pusha more so in the charts of women, which we'll explore in future videos related to Pusha Nakshatra. Ending also on a few contemplations on planet Venus, what Venus does is, it takes the elements of a person's appearance that may not be considered conventionally beautiful, and it alchemizes them so that they may become uniquely attractive. Venus quite literally takes what is considered to be ugly in the eyes of society and then glamorizes it, so that even what is usually called ugly can be seen as uniquely exciting. Venus is a planet that is related to the phenomenon of the ugly hot, for example, which describes men and even women who would otherwise be considered ugly, and yet for some reason they become uniquely visually exciting, as though their ugliness were alchemized or glamorized. Venus's ultimate objective is to create attachment. It is to inspire others to wish to be glued to it. For this reason, the sort of beauty that is generic, cookie cutter, or common may defeat the purpose, because the more common you are as an experience, the easier you are to replace. Instead, if you are uniquely attractive, which usually means carrying some elements of unconventionality in your appearance, you become a rarer experience that can inspire devotion and attachment. Thank you all so much for watching my video. For more original articles, writings, and contemplations on both astrology and mysticism, I ask that you subscribe to my Patreon.